Hello and welcome back to Miles to Go, or more aptly this go round, where has Miles been? I am Miles O'Brien, and I have been busy doing a lot of good journalism for PBS, for the News Hour, and for Nova. And I'm sorry to report I haven't been sharing my deep cuts with you. I have these great conversations all the time with really interesting people, and I often bemoan the fact that I share just a small portion of them in the stories that I do. And so I'd like to spend a little more time in my life sharing a little more of these great conversations with you. So with this podcast, I will begin doing this more consistently, I promise. I don't have a business plan for this. I just want to further educate and inform. I'd love to hear what you think about it. It is Monday, November 5th, Election Day. It's the morning. I'm in a hotel in Atlanta. I'm here in Georgia on assignment for the News Hour. And the reason I'm here is I've spent a lot of time looking at the technology of elections. Here in Georgia, they use what are called ballot marking devices made by Dominion Voting Systems. BMDs are hybrid between silicon and paper. You vote with a touchscreen. After you've made your selections, the computer prints out a hard copy with the selections on it, and that gets scanned and tabulated, and then the paper gets saved for post-election audits and ultimately potentially recounts. It is an expensive and complex system. Computer scientists who I have spoken to say almost to a person that it falls short of the gold standard for voting, which is very simply pen and paper, hand-marked ballots. To understand why that is, I invite you to check out my most recent story for the News Hour on this. It dropped on September 24th. I'll put a link in the show notes to it. And if you really want to nerd out on this subject, I'll put in other stories I've done on voting technology over the years. You can go deep if you want to. Now, Dominion. There's a good chance you recognize that name. March of 2021, Dominion Voting Systems filed that famous defamation lawsuit against Fox News. They sought $1.6 billion in damages. Dominion alleged that Fox News was broadcasting false claims, suggesting Dominion's voting machines rigged the 2020 U.S. presidential election. These claims were made by Fox guests and Fox hosts and included Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell. On April 18th of 2023, just as that trial was about to begin, Fox News and Dominion reached a settlement. Fox agreed to pay Dominion $787.5 million, one of the largest defamation settlements involving a media company ever. Fox acknowledged the court's findings that certain claims about Dominion were false, but did not offer an apology. There is another Dominion lawsuit, though, which you might not be aware of. The case is Curling versus Raffensperger. The suit remains active in U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia. That's right here in Atlanta. It was initiated in 2017, and the suit challenges the security and reliability of Georgia's electronic voting systems. Dominion. The lawsuit has morphed over the years. It began with a group of citizens who were concerned about the machines that preceded the Dominion ballot marking devices, so-called direct recording electronic machines, or DREs, made by Diebold, which have no paper trail whatsoever of voter intent. When Donna Curling moved to Georgia and voted for the first time here on those machines, she was taken aback. What made you decide to make an issue out of this?
I had worked in computers back before I started having children, and I knew enough about computers to have concerns about the security of when Georgia moved to this system in 2002. I had concerns. Of course, with the internet, you go out and you find other people of like minds, and I joined with some other activists, one of whom is a plaintiff in this case also, Donna Price. and we started trying to figure out ways that we could make a difference. Donna did a lot of work locally with on the state level, and I was trying to work more on the federal level. And about 2010, I just had enough. We weren't making any progress. It didn't matter if it was a D or an R in charge, same difference. These machines got me elected. We're not messing with the machines. So I kind of just gave up. And in 2017, I was reading the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and saw that there had been a breach in the voter database. At that time, everything was run out of Kennesaw State University. They had the whole election service division was there. The programmer who had found it, he went straight to KSU and said, "This is just out open on the internet. You guys need to do something." And they didn't. A little while later, one of his programming friends also found it was still out there. So Donna and I got in touch with all of our colleagues that we had worked with many years before. And one of my friends, Susan Greenhog, introduced us to Marilyn Marks. And Marilyn said, lawsuit is the way to go. I didn't know anything about the law or about a lawsuit. I knew we had tried most everything else and made very little progress. So we entertained the idea and ended up, when we had the election.
It was a special election in Georgia's 6th congressional district. Republican Karen Handel faced Democrat John Ossoff. It was 2017.
Karen Handel won, and it wasn't about that Karen won or that John won. It wasn't about who won. It was that there was really no way to be certain that nobody had gone into the database and monkeyed with the results. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but the problem was that it was exposed and we needed another kind of system. We once again went back to these DREs are unsafe. From the time we had last worked in it on the issue to now, even more had been discovered. And we had quite a list of experts who advised us and let us know what they felt was the best system to be used, and that hasn't changed since 2017. It's always been the best thing to do is hand-mark paper ballots with robust audits. It's inherently voter verified because you're marking it yourself. Can you make a mistake? Yes, you can, but it's your mistake. Nobody is going in and taking your vote and making it what they want. And that's kind of how we ended up where we are.
They sued to stop the state from using the DREs. In September of 2018, U.S. District Judge Amy Totenberg denied the plaintiff's request for a preliminary injunction to halt the use of the machines for the upcoming midterm elections. She cited the potential voter confusion and some administrative challenges. Then in July of 2019, Georgia announced plans to replace the DRE machines at some point with ballot marking devices. These are the touchscreen computers I was telling you about earlier. The machines would cost taxpayers in Georgia more than $100 million. The next month, August 2019, Judge Totenberg ruled that the state could no longer use the DRE machines after 2019. So Georgia proceeded with that plan with the BMDs to have them ready for the 2020 elections. When that remedy came down, instead of DREs, we're going to use these things, these ballot marking devices. Did you think at first that was a victory, or did you see it as a half a loaf at best, or did you think it was a bad outcome?
Actually, I was quite excited. That was when, I think it was Secretary Kemp who did the SAFE Commission, and I went to the demonstrations at the Capitol and got to see all the people who were putting in bids for the machines. There were two companies that I had reservations about because it wasn't both of them, both machines take your vote and translate it into a QR code. And the QR code is what is tabulated by the scanner. And I saw that as a problem.
Since voters cannot read a QR code, they couldn't be certain that the choices they made on the touchscreen were accurately conveyed on the paper ballot that was printed by the BMD.
And I thought, well, maybe we'll get lucky, but we didn't. And when they chose this system, we talked it over with the attorneys, and they agreed just to roll the DRE suit. We filed another amended complaint on this system.
So it wasn't even a half a loaf, was it?
It could have been, but it wasn't.
I see.
Yeah.
So here we are. Could you have ever predicted how this would have, the twists and turns here?
Well, if somebody had told me in 2017 I would still be here in 2024, I would have run. But, I cannot believe how long it has taken.
So it's taken a lot of time and energy on your part. What is propelling you all to do this? It's obviously not fame and fortune.
No, no, there's no fame here. It's democracy. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Without our vote, we can't have a representative government. And I believe in democracy. I want everybody's voice heard. I think that's what's important, and that's what gets us, that's how we should be ruled. That was what the forefathers intended, and I wish we still had that.
A lot of people bitch and moan about things. You do something about it. Why?
Well, I was largely motivated. Like I said, I have 3 children, 4 grandchildren, and I love democracy. That's why.
All right, so do you have a good feeling about what's coming here, and what would be the remedy that would make you most happy?
Well, for the judge to enjoin the use of these machines and hand-marked paper ballots, robust audits. The audit laws need to be worked out by experts. That's what we're hoping for.
So we've got 9 years of asking pretty please, and really no movement from the state except when they're prodded. I'm curious, do you have any sense why?
I am quite befuddled about why they chose a system that lacked transparency, because transparency is one of the most important things about our vote. But I don't know why. I don't.
Well, transparency, in theory, cuts both ways, right? It should be a bipartisan thing.
Oh, exactly. Right.
So here you are now, and so much has transpired. First of all, would you categorize yourself, and this is a loaded term now, are you an election denier?
Well, it depends on who you ask. We are not. We are strongly supported by election system experts from all over the country. And they're all in agreement about what the gold standard is, and we don't have it here.
I suppose there probably would be a lot less of the election denialism I'm referring to had it been universally paper ballots, right?
Yes.
Does that stand to reason in your view?
It's hard to say, but I think if we had the system that we want in place, yes, it would have solved all of this craziness that's going on now. Because you have ballots marked by voters, you can recount, you can recreate, there's a permanent record of your vote. So how could it be stolen?
Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that the places where there's been controversy, one way or another, involve machines.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So what's it been like with this weird, strange bedfellows moment that has arrived upon you? You were out there long before this became a MAGA issue, and suddenly the issue becomes almost poisoned by a lot of craziness.
When you approach elected officials and say, we need this, they're reluctant to jump in because of, like you say, it's a poison pill. Nobody wants to touch it. You know, I think they understand that we aren't election deniers and that we do have experts that back up what we're saying, but they're just reluctant. We just can't get anybody on board to help us do that.
It's got to be very frustrating after all you've been
Very
through
frustrating.
over these years to have this issue overshadowed and co-opted.
Yeah, very, very frustrating.
Is it awkward for you because you are right there on all the court documents. There you
Yes.
are, and you know there's Mike Lindell on Steve Bannon with the, you know, your name up there.
Yes.
What's that been like for you?
I try not to think about it. The people who know me know that I am, you know, not an election denier. Most of them have been on this long ride with me, but I can't do anything about what has happened. I can't. Nobody can. So the state points out every chance they get that we treat all election deniers the same, as that's the story. So.
But to be very clear about it, you would not even though in a weird, backwards way, you might be aligned at some level, you would not categorize yourself in any way with that group, would you?
No, I would not.
I mean, help people understand the differentiation, because that's what I'm struggling with in this story, is how do we tell this story in a way that people understand your intention in history as opposed to what, you know, these cyber ninjas are doing or whatever.
The important thing for people to understand is your vote's very personal, and you need to take charge of it, and you've got to verify that what goes into the system is your intention.
Do you believe in the rightful winner of the 2020 presidential election was Joe Biden?
Yes, but we don't focus on who wins elections. We are not about winners, losers. We are about getting a system where the results can be verified and not challenged.
I think it's really hard to get your point across in this environment. That's kind of what I'm trying to make. I don't know if this story's going to help or hurt. I hope it helps, but it's difficult.
Well, people don't understand that for the people, by the people, everybody should be involved. People don't like politics, and who can blame them? Our politics are nasty now, but everybody plays a part, could play a role. There's so much out there to be done, and people just don't. Everybody gets wrapped up in their own lives, and They don't understand that they're an important part of the democracy if we're going to keep it.
All right. Federal Judge Amy Totenberg has yet to issue a final ruling. And so after all these years, Curling versus Raffensperger remains active, as do the ballot marking devices here in Georgia. It's worth noting about 70% of Americans use pen and paper, which most computer scientists suggest is the most accurate, secure, and verifiable way to vote. That's it for Miles to Go. I'm Miles O'Brien. Thanks for checking in, and I promise I'll be back soon.